Computers. Music. Today, just about every song in the making uses a computer somewhere along the production or distribution process. But what did the music industry do before computers? When did computers become a part of music instrumentally? What changed when computers were introduced to the production line? To explain that, we're going to have to go way back to the era of pre-digital sound. Computers nowadays aid musicians in both the recording of music as well as the live performance of music. But in order to explain how the computer became an instrumental tool, we first must explain its more versatile purpose of audio playback. In the 1800s, everyone was listening to music. The Romantic era of orchestral music was in its prime. Inventions of the decade, such as the camera, wowed the world as it began to overshadow the age-old visual medium of paintings. Like many people of the mid-19th century, Parisian-born Edouard Léon Scott de Martinville wondered if the visual world could be captured for viewing at a later time. Why is this not the case with what we hear? That is why he created and patented his very own invention known as the phonautograph in 1857. With the original purpose of providing a visual representation of the sound waves on paper, the earliest intact of his recordings is a very faint 1860 recording of a girl singing Au clair de la lune. Later in the next decade, in the United States, Thomas Edison patented his own audio recording device that made use of a cylinder of tinfoil. His recording is believed to feature the words, "Mary had a little lamb." From that day on, advancements in improving the quality and expanding the lifespan of the media were made frequently. As for the use of electronics as musical instruments, a very notable achievement was in 1920 with the invention of the very first electronic instrument to provide the player full control of a wide array of pitch and volume settings in real time. This invention was known as the theremin and required extreme precision to play. Although the theremin is only a speck in comparison to the impact of the following instruments on the music industry. The first breakthrough in attempting to digitally organize sound occurred with the invention of the telharmonium by Thaddeus Chahils in 1897. This concept implemented the use of many large cogs, which grooves would manipulate the electrons in the air near to a magnet in order to form varying additive sine wave frequencies. This invention was unsuccessful, though, due to its massive size, but was successfully reinvented in a smaller form with the help of amplifiers by Lorenz Hammond as the Hammond organ in 1937. This organ was far cheaper to produce than the classic pipe organ and became a staple of popular jazz and later rock the 40s onward. The beginnings of vocal synthesizers, known as vocoders, essentially the beginnings of autotune, can be traced back to the Homer Dudley of Bell Labs' 1939 invention named voder.
See how you put expression into a sentence. Say, she saw me, with no expression.
She saw me.
Now say it in answer to these questions. Who saw you?
She saw me.
Whom did she see?
She saw me.
Did she see you or hear you?
She saw me.
After this, the first voltage-controlled synthesizer, the electronic Sackbut, was invented by Ottawa's Hugh Lucane in 1948. In 1950, the digital computer was used to play music for the very first time on model CSIR MK1. 7 years later, the very first fully dedicated digital synthesizer program was invented by Max Matthews of Bell Labs and paved the way for succeeding digital synthesizers. As the 60s rolled around, the first modern modular synthesizers such as the Buchla and the revolutionary Moog 1, 2, and 3 synthesizers were introduced. Though the original Moog synthesizers did not make the cultural impact that the company was known for until the miniature, non-modular, fully independent monosynth known as the Minimoog was released in 1970. After the Minimoog, a massive flood of new keyboard synthesizers, all better than the last, were released by companies of all kinds, including Coupland, Tonus, Roland, Yamaha, NED, PPG, Fairlight, and Sequential circuits for the following 2 decades. All introduced interesting advantages to their product, but all not as large an impact on the future of electronic sound as Sequential circuits did with their use of built-in microprocessors, as well as the introduction of the MIDI audio standard in 1982 with their Prophet 600 synthesizer. But whilst the audiologists were working on keyboard synthesizers, the video game developers at Moog Technology and Atari had already designed their own extremely efficient programmable sound generator chips like the SID and the POKEY, in which an entire genre of music today, known as chiptune, features their 8-bit sound limitations. Since then, the MIDI protocol has expanded to include support for USB and wireless transfer, and is used in programs, video games, and mobile phones as a royalty-free digital music playback medium offered in a very small file size. The introduction of MIDI support for personal computers in the late 1980s led to the creation of programs like Steinberg's Cubase, as well as the very first VST plugins made for a type of software that allows the user the very efficient creation of electronic music, in which producers still use today, known as digital audio workstations, or DAWs. This extremely versatile piece of software turns studios full of mixing boards, filter machines, and tape recorders into a small set of files on your computer. Today, there are many different DAWs to choose from, including Apple Logic Pro, Apple GarageBand, Caucus Reaper, Renoise, Studio One, Cakewalk, Sonar, Propellerhead Reason, Motu Digital Performer, Avid Pro Tools, Ableton Live, and ImageLine Fruity Loops Studio, as well as countless more, all accompanied by an absolutely endless list of VSTs available. Popular artists that are using DAWs like these include Avicii, who uses FL Studio, Zed, who uses Cubase, Deadmau5, who uses Ableton, FL, and Cubase, Skrillex uses Ableton, and just about every other artist producing electronic music and non-electronic music alike. Now you may ask, where did all these VSTs come from? Are they just digital recreations of common acoustic instruments? Yes and no. Although many VSTs feature classic instruments like the guitar, piano, and horns, many VSTs also emulate all the great electronic musics that we discussed earlier, such as the Moog synthesizer. Many synthesizers from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that were extremely expensive are now available for cheap or even free to DAW owners in the comfort of their own home on their computer. Creation of DAWs and VSTs have allowed very high quality music production and mastering to be capable in the hands of the average musician. Thank you very much for watching my brief history of electronic sound and how computers have changed music. Thank you.